Welcome everyone to this edition or session of Federation Live. My name is Tandalyn Daniel. I'm the Director of Communications and Member Relations at the Federation. Let me top line with a few things. First of all, I'm glad that you all have made it on. We want this to be an interactive Q&A after Freddie presents. I want to first tell you guys a few things about the Federation. The Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund is a 57-year-old cooperative association of Black farmers, landowners, and cooperatives. We do three core things. We provide cooperative development for businesses that are trying to farm and run democratically in rural communities. We also do land retention, which what our topic today on climate smart commodities will touch on that. And lastly, we have a focus on advocacy. And what that means is we get in touch with politicians and organizations and we advocate on behalf of our membership of Black farmers, landowners, and cooperatives. So how we got here today is that the Federation of Southern Cooperatives Land Assistance Fund is a USDA cooperator. We are a huge partner with them, and we're going to speak with our project leader on this Climate Smart Commodities project later, Freddie Davis, and I'm gonna give him a proper introduction. But about 2 years ago, the Biden administration allocated so many dollars or set aside for Black farmers to get involved in climate smart, or underserved farmers, excuse me, in climate smart initiatives. And that is what brings us here today, what we are talking about, how you as a producer can become involved. And with that, I'm now excited to introduce my colleague, Freddie Davis. Freddie, do you want to wave at folks here? Oh, there he is. Freddie, let me spotlight him.
Howdy.
Freddie Davis. He is the director of the Federation's Rural and Training Research Center. It's a 1,300-acre property that we own in Epps, Alabama, as a federation. One of the few African-American foresters in the country, so we are very happy to have him on our team and leading our team on these climate smart resources. He's also a climate resources specialist and a technical service provider. So with no further ado, let's hear from Mr. Freddie Davis. He's gonna talk to us for about 15, 20 minutes on the program. I want everybody to remain on mute. When he finishes, if you've got questions, you could have put them in the chat and we will start addressing them. Okay?
All right, thanks, Tandalyn. I appreciate being here this morning and to talk to you guys about this climate smart commodities pilot project that that's being funded by USDA. In 2022, late September, December, USDA allocated $3.1 billion to assist farmers with adopting climate smart projects. And the need for these projects is driven by climate change, increase in greenhouse gases, things of that nature. So USDA, I think the country see the farmers as being the first responders for combating climate change. So USDA has kind of put the resources in place to incentivize farmers to adopt practices to sequester more carbon and reduce the output of carbon in farming practices. So during that time period between September and December, there were 141 of 2022. There was 141 projects that was funded by USDA to incentivize farmers or assist farmers in adopting climate smart practices, with an attempt to gauge how that affects the farmer and how that affects the environment. So what I'm here today to talk about is how can we as African American farmers participate in these programs to benefit our farms and our farming operations. So in all of those 141 projects, there was a requirement that those projects address underserved landowners in every one of those projects. And there were 70 keystone projects, so to speak, that were $5 million and above. And then there were 71 projects that were 5 million and below. And those that was 5 million below was primarily to help underserved landowners. The ones with 5 million above had to have a component in it to assist African American landowners. Well, actually, underserved landowners. Let me change that language. Underserved landowners. So what I wanted to talk to you about was how does this affect you and your farm, or how it could affect you and your farming operation. So right now we're in the climate where out of all of these projects, there's a need to work with us, and we need to take advantage of these opportunities. For one, these projects all of the projects have got a marketing component where it assists farmers with accessing markets and marketing opportunities. So the whole premise of the project is that for the project leads to introduce climate smart practices, such as cover crops, no-till, if you're in row cropping, cover crop, no-till, if you're doing specialty crops, mulching, something of that nature. If you're in forestry, extended rotations or planting high density trees. So we're looking at, if you're in cattle production, how do you reduce methane emissions in your cattle, rotational grazing, increasing your quality of your forage. So it's all of those things, those type of things that's being incentivized for you to adopt as farmers. Again, with the emphasis that they've got to work with underserved landowners. So of that, several of these projects have really got a heavy incentive to minimize the impact of you adopting these practices right now. So the project is intended to incentivize you to adopt these practices and then introduce you to markets or develop markets that will accept those products or recognize those products as being climate smart products, whether that's a forestry product, corn, cotton, collard greens, or beef, as recognizing that. So the project will incentivize, the projects are intended to incentivize farmers to adopt climate smart and then develop a market to buy the product that's being produced from that farm. So that's the whole intent behind the project. So there are, again, 141 of these projects, and all of them got an underserved component to it. So over the next, these projects will last 5 years. So they've got a 5-year time span on them. Most of the projects have started in the last quarter of 2022 and first quarter, last quarter 2023 and starting the first quarter 2024. So we're looking at a 5-year time span from those periods. So I think what's really important for us is here's an opportunity to adopt some practices that's going to be beneficial to your farm overall. The cost of adopting those practices is going to be minimized or reduced or even incentivized by some projects. So what we've got to do is look at these projects as producers, as farmers, as far as landowners, and figure which one would be beneficial to us and our operations, and how many of these projects we could possibly participate in order to get a full range of how climate smart practices or climate smart activities would affect our farm. One project might concentrate on rotational grazing. The second project might concentrate on planting a cover crop. The third project might be planting trees. If you could do all three of those projects on your farm, it'd be beneficial to you to, if it fits within your farm plan, to adopt all three of those and be incentivized for participating in all three of those practices, especially if it's something that you're already interested in doing on your farm or something that you would see beneficial to your farming operation. So what we've got to do is be intentional about how we deal through these projects, and be careful that we're not that we don't sign up for a project initially that would eliminate us from signing up for a project that might be more beneficial to our farm in a month or 2 months. So what I'm pushing is for us to have an understanding of these projects, how they affect the farm, and how they affect our bottom line. So just for example, you might have 2 organizations out there that's incentivizing you for planting cover crops. One might be paying $45 an acre, and the other might be paying $120 an acre. So let's see what the requirements are for the $45 an acre, what the requirements are for the $120 an acre as producers. And it might be that the one paying 120 is asking for a little more input on you, but it's something that you're already doing. Whereas the 45 is asking you to do less than maybe what you're doing already. What to do as producers, and one thing that we're here to help you with is to say, okay, which program is best suited? Which of these projects is best suited for my farm and my farm operation? If you have the choice of multiple projects in the area that you're living in.
If I'm understanding you correctly, there are like all of these climates in climate smart projects that are out there. So let's say I was a cattle farmer. The Federation is what you're saying is that the Federation is going to help me identify which projects I should use based on my farm. Is that right?
There's a dashboard on USDA website that will tell you, if you're a cattle farmer, you can go to that dashboard, and if you're in Mississippi, you can go to that dashboard and say, I'm a cattle farmer in Mississippi. What projects affect my area? And all of the projects that's been funded will come up on that dashboard as a resource. You can go down through that as a producer and see what is something that you're interested in. And then what I'm asking from there is that let's have a conversation about what that look like.
All
But you
right.
can, so you as a producer can go through and look at that dashboard and see what affects you. And then from there, you narrow it down as a producer. Then let's have a conversation about it with myself or staff of the Federation to see, okay, is this something that would be, am I going in the right direction with this?
All right. So what we'll do as a follow-up to this meeting is we'll send the link to that dashboard so that everybody on this call has it. I think we can do that. Then another question that I had, because I don't see a question in the chat as of yet, is what states will the Federation be offering this assistance in for this project?
So right now we'll go from west to east. Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina.
Those the 7 core states that we're typically with boots on the ground, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. We have a question from Katrina. She wants to know, do these projects go through the NRCS?
Yes. That they're funding and you're already getting funded for it through an NRCS practice such as EQIP or CSP, you will not be able to participate in these programs. Here's the one thing we got to look at with that though. You can't participate with the same practice on the same acre in the same year. So if you're getting cover crops through CSP or EQIP in 2024, then you cannot participate in cover crops under this program in 2024, but you could in 2025.
All right, we have another question from Lynette. What do the incentives entail? Meaning, how is the funding determined? Thank you, Lynette.
So the funding was determined in the proposal process. So there's no particular rate that's allocated across the board. So every project has its own system for funding the practices or whatever it is that's being incentivized. So each so it's no uniform or rate that's established for the practices. Did I answer that?
I got a question.
All right, Bruce.
Okay. The different agencies, who's it's 141 agencies, or is this 141 project? Well, that agencies, or it's 141 projects.
It's 141 projects.
Okay.
It's a whole lot more agencies. It's a whole lot more groups, but it's 141 projects.
Okay. It's going to be up to us to contact the different agencies to apply for this assistance?
Yes, it will be. So if you see a project in your area that interests you, it would be up to you as a producer to reach out and say, I'm interested in participating in this program.
Okay.
That makes the dashboard ever more important so that you can select out of these 141 projects what you want to do. And then Lynette, if you get a moment, come off mute and let us know if he answered your incentive question and you understand. We're gonna wait just a second.
Okay. I guess I'll look at the dashboard here to make sure that I'm clarifying the question, but just trying to figure out, like with the other programs that we've learned about recently, you said it incentivized, and usually there's criteria. So I don't know if we choose, like, depending on what commodity, what determines how much we could get for each of the areas. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
The project will determine that. Each project has set their own rates. So again, if we go back to my example, one project might be at $45 per acre for cover crops, and another one might be at $120 an acre for cover crop. And those are just numbers I just pulled out my hat. But so each project will have certain things that they're requiring for you to participate as a part of that project. But those numbers will vary just based on projects.
And if you guys can see my screen, give me a thumbs up, but I did click on the link. Can y'all see that? All right. And you see 55 states and territories. They've got mostly all of them up there. And I guess if, like, I live in Georgia, just trying to model what he's talking about. And then it'll go down into all of these different things, right? And this is my first look as well, but this is the website. So you would come here depending on who you are, what state you're in, and go through this. Right, Freddie?
That's right. Exactly.
Right. Now I'm going to stop sharing. And we've got more questions from Danielle. She's asking, so what if we need Freddie and his team to come out before we engage in these programs?
So in each state that I mentioned, we have staff. So it would be a matter of coordinating that with the staff in each state.
What we're going to do is in the communication that goes out for this, we're going to have the membership line. We're also going to have the regional training centers telephone number in addition to each state contact, so that everybody will have an opportunity to come in however you'd like with your questions for us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next question. Thank you. This is from Katina. Since it is a 5-year commitment, wouldn't it be unavailable for NRCS programs each of the 5 years?
Again, it would be if you're being funded, because this is a USDA program. So if you're being funded for, and I just use cover crop, if you're being funded for cover crops in 2024 in this project, you would not be able to be funded through another USDA program for cover crops in 2024. However, in 2025, if you're not funded by another USDA project, you can be funded by a USDA project for cover crops in 2025. And the same will be throughout the whole 5 years. We just cannot be funded for the same project, for the same practice, on the same acre, on the same year.
Okay, and we have another question. This one's from Deborah. Is there a ranking for these projects?
Each project is run different. As of, I haven't heard of a ranking that's in a project right now. But each one has got its requirements to participate. But I haven't, as far as a ranking process, I think more of it is going to be on a first come, first served basis. And what I've experienced to date is that it's on a, if you meet the requirements of the project, which each project has got different requirements, then it's a first come, first served basis. Some projects require that you be affiliated with certain organizations. Some projects require that that you are buying or selling to certain your commodities to certain organizations. So it's certain requirements with certain projects. That's why it's good to use that dashboard and kind of read through what the projects are, and then go through whether you feel that you're fit for each project beforehand.
So I had this raises another question for me. What is ranking?
Okay, so ranking is when you have a USDA, primarily NRCS, will have a process where they will grade your application based on certain areas that they really want to focus on with their funding. And so, based
Okay.
on how your application meets the needs of the organization, that's what a ranking is. So it's a scoring system.
So it's like if they're incentivizing growing cotton, and then I grow cotton, I'm ranked higher.
That's right. And most of it is going to be that's correct. It's the US, it's that, and then we hear a lot about county committees, right? I think in a lot of communications we hear about county committees. So the state will allocate. Okay, well we're interested in, like we'll keep with what you're saying, Tandra. The state will say, okay, we're interested in cotton. And then your county will come back and say, well, we're interested in cotton on these particular soils. So if you're on, yeah, and so if you've got cotton on those soils in that county, you're going to rank higher. So that's what ranking is. It's pretty much scoring you against the metrics that's laid in place by USDA.
Okay. And we've got another question in the chat, then another question. Also, since manpower constraints are ever present, will the Federation support these projects have a higher priority, or wait a minute, will Federation support for these projects have a higher priority, or is it first come, first serve? Katrina, Fred, do you understand that one?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Okay, so as a part of these projects, the Federation is directly affiliated with two of these projects. If you go on the dashboard, there's one that's Field to Market. And there's another that is Land O'Lakes or True Terra. So combined, I think those projects together are around $160 million. That the Federation's not directly applied or not directly funded, but we're partners in those projects. So in those projects, we are staffing up as an organization to address the concerns around those two particular projects. The other projects we're not directly affiliated with. That's why I mentioned the dashboard and using the dashboard, because we're going to ask you all to kind of go through as producers and see what fit, and then our outreach staff or our states will then, through the process of just reaching out, the things that we're doing as an organization anyway, we can assist you with your farm planning, which is something that we're doing regardless of if we had climate smart commodities or not. But with those two primary projects, we will have staff in those 7 states that's having a conversation with you all about how you would fit into those projects and how they would affect you.
We have a question from Cornelius Key. Is that correct? Your hand's raised, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Freddie, and this is pertaining to maybe some of the questions that already been asked as far as NRCS. And I think any farmer knows what worked best, on their farm. And if a farmer is already in a practice with NRCS, and we look at this, the climate smart, what you have here, and it worked better and it worked more perfect for us to be in the climate smart that you're actually talking about rather than NRCS. is there a penalty for canceling the NRCS contract? So if we decide to just say, well, oh, look, I can get more out of the Climate Smart here than I can with NRCS. Is there a penalty for that? If we do cancel the NRCS contract, can we still participate in the Climate Smart here?
As of now, Cornelius, it hadn't been any language that's saying that I'm aware of that's saying if you cancel an
Existing.
existing contract such as CSP or terminated equip contract that that you will not be eligible for a climate smart project. However, you know, there are terms that's listed on your CSP and equip contract about termination and paying back, you know, what you might have received through NRCS. So you have to look at the terms of that contract as for canceling them. But when you cancel it, as of now, I don't know of anything that's, I haven't heard of any language. Initially, there wasn't any language around counseling and not being able to participate in the Climate Smart.
Okay, great.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? All right, I would also kind of like to back up if we could and just, you know, top line the two opportunities that you spoke about. You mentioned field to market and the Land O'Lakes through Terra. Could you talk a little bit more about those two projects, field to market, and our involvement as a federation?
Yeah, so those projects we have just recently got approved to get them off the ground. So we're in the beginning stages. So I'll speak from a high level, and we'll kind of narrow it down and probably have another conversation, Tammy, in the near future on exactly how those projects are going to affect our producers. But so we'll start off with the Land O'Lakes project, which incentivizes, which is based around incentivizing commodity producers. Is primarily what that project is incentivizing. That's going to be your corn, cotton, soy, wheat, and livestock producers around adopting climate smart practices. And that project will incentivize you for adopting practices such as no-till, cover crop rotation, those sort of things. We haven't gotten down to exactly what that incentive is. Within the next couple of weeks, we will have exactly what that incentive is as a project, and the parameters or the metrics around, you know, what you would need to do in order to receive that incentive. The field to market is going to be a little bit different. There's a loan built into the field to market, where as an organization, we'll be able to loan producers up to $250,000 for adopting the climate smart practices on their farming operations. As of right now, we're still trying to figure those parameters out as to exactly what you would have to do as a producer in order to qualify for that type of operation loan, and what that would look like, what the parameters around that would look like. We just signed that agreement this week, so we're not.
Gotcha.
We don't have it ironed out yet. Yeah, but I think they'll really we understand what the needs of producers are, and so we're really trying to make it where it's going to be something that fits the project and fits our producers.
Okay. And you also mentioned, because we definitely will have, as we develop here with the climate smart practices, more Federation Lives. And tomorrow over in Alabama, you're having a climate, or the Federation, we're having a climate smart forum, correct?
That's correct. So one of the things is, I mentioned a couple of projects, or two cohorts. The first one, it was 70 projects, and those projects were at, I think the range was from 5 billion to 90 million or something like that. And then you had 5 million and below. So the first cohort of projects were projects that were primarily focused on row crop and large livestock operations. That's what the first funding cycle, those that was approved in December, that's what those projects were primarily focused on. Well, and with a few of them being focused on forestry. So what we're doing on the 24th and 25th is bringing those producers that we're working with, or that we're working with, or that we know are out there that fits the producers we're targeting, and bringing them in to talk over those 70 projects, or the aspects of those projects that would affect their operations, and kind of go into a deep dive into what that looked like in participating, and how to go about maximizing the opportunities that's offered through these projects. So we'll do that on the 24th and 25th here in Epps, Alabama, at the Rural Training Research Center. The 24th will be, we'll start at 5 o'clock with a introduction to what it is that we're trying to do. Bring in some of the funders that's on the list to talk to the farmers, and then we'll start back up. Thursday morning? We'll start back up at 8 o'clock and go through kind of a deep dive on what these projects look like for our producers. And this is going to be primarily for those first 70 projects. And then we'll follow up within the next couple of weeks with another meeting on, okay, those 70 projects that was in cohort 2, because the 70 projects that was in cohort 2 are primarily focused then on your specialty crops and things like that. Your specialty crops, goat, sheep operations, woodland grazing, and those sort of things.
The question that I have right now for you is, if I were a cattle farmer, on, as busy as things already are, all the programs out there, do you really think this is going to make a difference to my bottom line? Right?
Who put that in there? Did Mr. Dale Jones put that question in there? I see you on, Dale. I hadn't heard from you over in Mississippi, but yeah, I think it would initially, like this meeting. I think if you're a cattle producer and you're running over 50 head, it would be a meeting that's beneficial for you to attend. And then if you're under that, then I think the second meeting will be the meeting that'd be most beneficial for you to attend. Just because of scale and the type of practices that was listed in the first meeting in the first cohort is gonna be practices that's gonna be more in line with producers that's got large operations. And then the specifics of the second cohort are in line with producers that's got that's primarily on the scale with 50 or less head, when you're specifically talking about cattle.
Okay. Do you have any more questions from? All right, Trinice, I see you've raised your hand.
Thank you very much. I have a question. If you're a producer and you're unable to attend the meeting on the 24th or 25th, what recommendations do you have as far as getting this useful information for moving forward.
Ms. Trinice, I think it would be the process that we outlined on reaching out to that information that Tamlin's going to give for the specific state that you're in. What state are you in?
I'm in Georgia too.
Georgia, okay.
All right. I wasn't sure if you were going to be reporting it at all, or if there was going to. So that's what I was curious about. So thank you.
Okay.
Trinice, you've gotten the ball running. We'll see how we can do things virtually and in person, but we'll talk about that later. We are recording. All right. So we have another question for forest projects. How many acres is considered large enough for the first cohort?
What we're going to do for the forestry projects is we're going to have a separate meeting for forestry. So we'll have another meeting for forestry because those projects are so unique that we would have to go over each project individually. It's not that many of them. It's not many forestry projects at all. We would have to go through those one by one, and we're gonna set something up to do that on a separate occasion, but coming up pretty quickly.
All right. All right, everybody. We are at 12:45. We have gone through this discussion. I'm going to pause and see if there are any more questions, but if we're done, we're done. All right. Scanning the room. Okay. I wanted you guys to know that we frequently have these Federation Lives where we are offering outreach, education, or technical assistance, typically on a program or whatever's current or relevant. Yes, Freddie.
Okay, yeah. Before we end it, Tamlin, I just want to make sure that let's sign up for our equips and our CSPs in our states. The Environmental Quality Incentive and Conservation Stewardship Program. I don't want this to deter you from signing up for any of those programs that's being offered directly from your state USDA agency. And so that's something I really want to emphasize. Let's definitely sign up for those programs. They are really being heavily funded through IRA. This year, your state's probably got 3 times the funding for each of those that they had the previous year. So let's definitely sign up for those programs. Definitely keep them on your radar for 2024 and 2025 for the next 5 years, because IRA really put a lot of funding in those projects, as well as this climate smart. But let's definitely keep those projects on mind and definitely doing applications for
them. That brought us to another question. This is from Deborah Coleman. If our farms are being considered for other climate smart partnerships, can we participate in one of these programs, or will it be the same as participating in an NRCS program?
So if you've got, if there's private funding, there's non-USDA funding for a project or something, by all means, you can, unless that funding has got some stipulation saying that it can't be, that you can't use it if you got USDA funding, then you can put them on the same acre and sign up for another project. I don't see where that wouldn't happen, but if it's USDA funding, then you can't take USDA funding and use it for the same thing. That would be considered double dipping if it's USDA funding. But if it's funding for some other stores, I don't see where that would be an issue.
Been selected to participate in a partnership with one of the awardees for the climate smart contracts that were issued last year. And
Okay.
we're in the pool. We're going to do the assessment, I think, next week. And if we're selected, there will be a project where we're going to implement monitoring greenhouse gas emissions. And that is climate smart. So, but it would be a different type of practice under one of these programs. So I was wondering or wanted to know, would we be able to participate in one of these programs if we're selected to be partners on one of the other projects?
Oh, cool. Good question, Deborah. Let's talk, if you don't mind, let's talk through this, because I think it would really provide some insight to those that's on the call. So with your project, what were you required to implement as a part of that project? So I know they're coming out to monitor greenhouse gases, but did they request that you make any changes to what you're currently doing on your farm?
No changes. They're going to use what we already have as far as waste for livestock waste and
Okay.
for any vegetation waste.
Okay.
They're going to use that to implement practices here on our farm, such as
Okay,
the black soldier fly lava. Are you familiar with that practice?
I'm not.
Yeah. So that's going to be this particular program.
So
And
what
it's
are they going to do? What are they going to do with the waste that's coming off your livestock waste?
They're going to put it into a system. And I don't know how much I'm supposed to share or shouldn't share, but they're going to put it into a system.
Okay.
And that system is going to provide feed for the livestock here
Okay.
and fertilizer for our plants.
Are you currently doing that?
No, not now.
Okay, so that's the change that they're asking. So
Yes.
so that would be the change in practice that they're asking. So you could participate in another program as long as it's not asking you to take your livestock waste and turn it into feed or fertilizer through that method. So you
Okay.
could then turn into another project and do something different on your farm, and receive incentives from that, because from this project you're going to get incentives, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to get those incentives, so you could receive incentives for doing that, and so that does not eliminate you from signing up on another project to do implement some type of rotational grazing system,
Okay.
or to I know there's practices around even planting cover crop and grazing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you could apply for those as well and be incentivized for doing that, which is helping the herd also. So you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's a good example. That's a good example. Thanks.
Thank you.
But that's a drill down. I think we just saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie, a drill down of why the producer needs to go through the project list, see what's available, what pertains to them, then maybe step to our outreach team for these sorts of nuances and questions like she just had.
Yeah, because one of the things that we've got to so this funding came through applications, right? So it was competitive. So these applications might say that we're gonna do 2 million acres of grazing. And so you might, if you got 2,000 acres, or let me back up, you got 500 acres that you're grazing. If you got somebody that's doing the project that comes to you and say, okay, well, we want to sign up your 500 acres to do cover crops, and we want you to do them like XYZ, then you could possibly tell them, well, I don't want to do 250 acres because on the other 250, I want to do this project or this project. But whoever's coming to you might not give you all of those options because they've got some responsibilities to their project, not necessarily to your farm, if that makes sense.
These sound like really specific to your area, what you're producing, and what your needs as a farmer are, right? What's the best mix of incentives that I could get for what I'm doing right here and my objective? So what I'm hearing is that people need to have a farm plan, correct?
That, hey, Tandon, I like the way you said that. It would definitely help for you to have a direction or a plan as to what it is that you're wanting to do on your farm. That would definitely,
Well,
that's
that
definitely the
next step,
idea
right?
that you would need. Yeah. Because this is an opportunity to try new things and to be incentivized for it. And it's an opportunity to do some old things, some things that you've been doing, and just let somebody take the numbers for what you've been doing. Because all of these projects, somebody's got to come out and say, okay, this is how this is affecting the environment. So there's a monitoring and measuring component with all of this. So there's somebody's going to be on your farm and look at and have some type of tool out to measure how this is affecting the environment. So so there's a monitoring and measuring component to it that's definitely there. But this is an opportunity to say, okay, I've been interested in trying this, and now I'm going to get incentivized for it. Or I've been trying this, and now I'm going to get incentivized for it. What project fits me? So yeah, I think that we got to look at it from that standpoint.
So having said that, if I were on this call knowing what I know about the Federation, let's do a brief walkthrough. And it's 12:56. We can go a little bit over, but just a brief walkthrough. So I would reach out to whatever office or Federation number that you guys will be getting following this meeting in a couple of days in an email. You reach out. I think the first thing to do is say, you know, does this person have a farm management plan before taking a look at all these programs? So it's almost like a two-step process, right? They reach out. If you got a plan, great, let's take a look at it. If you don't have a plan, well, then let's get a plan, right?
Yeah, I think having a plan is definitely the direction to go, and that's something that as Federation staff we can walk you guys through is developing that plan. Even if it's a plan that we're developing, we can develop a skeleton plan to get you through this process, and then come back and develop a more in-depth plan to service your overall farm. So so definitely having a plan is something that's critical.
Okay. And we have so we are going to run just a little bit over, but we have a couple of more questions. This is from Danielle. What if you do not know what programs are on your farm? Is it best to talk to Freddie first? Where you at, Danielle? Okay. Shoot.
Well, okay. I'm here. Yes. Yeah. So, for instance, on one of the farms that we have in Mississippi, I found out through research that I have a credit commodity corporation paperwork, marketing, a marketing application loan, and a cotton technical assistance program. So those are all incentivized programs that we're supposed to be getting money on. Would it be best for us to get into a climate project in Mississippi that fits around the cotton that we're growing, or cotton that we have on the land, versus will we be able to be in the climate smart program if we already have those practices somewhere else going on the farm? That's what I meant.
So Danielle,
with any
you
of
guys are
those?
growing.
Cotton somewhere on 290 acres. There's cotton grown on probably about 156 acres. And that's all I know is that there's cotton, but I don't know if there's any other incentives on the farm that would prevent us from getting into the climate smart program.
Okay, so if you Daniel, if you've got cotton there, what we look at then is if you go on that dashboard, and I've got a spreadsheet here, and I was trying to pull it up while you was talking, but it's gonna say so each one of these projects is specific around a commodity. So it's gonna list if it's, I think the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol might have one or something like that, and it's for cotton, and some of them might have cotton and whatever cover crops, whatever rotational crops you might plant behind cotton. But yes, you can do it on cotton, and then if you've got soy on the other 140 acres, you can do a climate smart commodity project on the soy part for who's ever creating a project around soy. So you can have one for cotton and have one for soy. And not saying that you couldn't even rotate around
that
the
makes
two,
sense. Okay.
because at the end of your planting season, you're going to do cover crops, right? So you could possibly, if you've got something specific to cotton, you could do it if it's during the cotton growing season. If it's saying, okay, you're going to no-till, right? Your cotton. You can have that with the cotton project.
Yeah.
You can have whatever you got going with your soy project, and then you could combine the whole 290 acres on a cover crop project. So you got 3 projects going on your 290 acres because you're not doing the same practice on the same acre in the same year.
Understood.
Got it.
And that's
Gotcha.
the combination.
Okay, understood. Okay.
Yeah, those are the combinations that we've got to look at. So it's really intentional around participating in these projects, and that's something we need to do sooner than later, because it's certain number of acres and certain goals that each of these projects got to get, and when they hit them, that's going to be they've met their requirements for what they said they were going to do for USDA, but that doesn't mean sign up for the first one you see, because it might lock you out of participating in another one. But it's just about getting good information as quick as you can on those that fit you. And so I would definitely, with you having cotton and you being in Mississippi,
Gotcha. And reading the description.
You might want to be at the training center on the 24th or 25th in Epps. Just throwing it out there.
All right, Freddie has some very subtle hints about what a great event's going to be held, and then we're going to look at ways where we can get people who are far away engaged. We've got 2 more questions. This one's from Evelyn. What is available for timber crop under this Climate Smart program?
Miss Evelyn, where you at? What state?
The farm is in Alabama, in Aliceville. You were actually on the farm at one time.
Oh, Miss Evelyn, I got you now with Andrew and McGuire. Okay, look. So the largest thing that the biggest component of the forestry end of this is going to be tree planting. That's going to be the largest component of most of these forestry projects, and I'm just being real general right now, because I said we will go over forestry in specific, but the majority of the forestry projects are going to be around replanting, replanting and planting. Now, if you've got a pasture, farmland, or something that you're wanting to convert into forestry, there's a lot of opportunities around that right now in these projects. That's
Well,
primarily.
I do have that. I do have that.
That is going to be primarily what these forestry programs are going to be for. So we need to have further conversation. If you're wanting to take some ag land out of production and put them in the forestry, those are primarily, they're calling them afforestation. So it's not reforestation, it's afforestation. So it's for places that have not traditionally been in forestry.
And that's A as in apple?
Forestry. That's A as in apple.
We've got another question. What is the title of the Federation employee locally to develop the plan? Should we be contacting the outreach specialists for help here?
I think we would actually, if you're reaching the office in each state, the person that fields that call at the end of that number will point you in the direction that you would need to go. So you would call the numbers that Tandem provide and let them know what it is you're trying to do, and they will point you in the right direction of the person that you would need to talk to within that state.
Okay. Someone wants to know, will the same material be covered both days and ends?
No, it will not. The first day we're going to actually have some of the funders or some of the projects that's been funded to come in and have a conversation with the farmers, and then the second day we will talk about how those projects, how to maximize the opportunities around those projects in a closed session with farmers only. And so, yeah. So that's kind of how that process will run.
So
And
where
you'll-
was your number placed? I'm sorry, Freddie. I didn't see
Say
it in
again?
the chat. What was your number? I didn't see it in the Q&A or the chat.
I'll put it in the chat, but I'm sending a follow-up email to everybody as well. Ms.
Okay.
Evelyn.
Okay.
And one number off the top of my head, which he'll get it anyway, is 1-888-322-2985. That's the membership line. You can call there, and then we direct it on. And then I'm looking for Freddie's number, but you will get it.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Freddie's office number is 205-652-9676. Follow up and stuff like that. You will get a communication after this. We are at the top of the hour, a little bit over. We've had a very engaging conversation. We will be holding further Federation Lives to discuss different aspects of our climate smart initiative, specifically as they relate to field to market, Land O'Lakes. And I believe Freddie also mentioned that one of these things had a funding loan fund component to it. So we'll be excited to share the details of that. If you registered for this meeting, you will get follow-up contact information. And with that, I want to say everybody have a great day, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.